Right, I think we'll get started. Welcome, my name is Leanne Steenkamp. I'm the Program Head of the Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Planning, and I'm joined today by two students. To my left is Tamsin Gradwell. She's currently enrolled in the PGD, and she's one of the class reps for this year. Tamsin, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And then we also have Mike Sava. Mike is the top student from last year's cohort. And Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Maybe if you guys can just share a bit of your journey here to USB and where you work, please. Mike, maybe you want to start off?
I'll start. Hi everyone. I started in the industry in 2015. I didn't really know much. Coming from Zimbabwe, there wasn't really much financial planning there, I'm sure you know. And so I started there, started the industry just getting a bit of experience, and I started the postgrad diploma last year, beginning of 2016. I did it in a year. And I've been basically going from knowing nothing. Now I'm comfortable sitting in front of complex top-level clients, being able to assist them with their financial planning.
Good. So we did our job.
Did your job?
Tamsin, and you?
Thank you. I studied a BCom in financial accounting. So I come from an accounting and auditing background. I joined one of the largest insurance companies, I guess, in 2011 as a financial planner. It was a very new concept to me. I wasn't really aware of what I got myself into, but I found that I really enjoyed it, and I stayed for 5 years. And now I've moved on to a different role at a different company, but I decided that I really wanted to complete this qualification because it was one of my goals while I was a practicing financial planner. I have a passion for the industry, and yes, and that's the reason I'm enrolled this year.
Good. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us. And I guess that's the role or the purpose of today's session, is not just for me to share information with the admin side of the program, but to get real life insight and experiences from you guys, because I get so many questions from prospective students, and we'll get to those questions at the end, and you're welcome to type your questions as well. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that. So while we continue with the presentation, Tamsin and Mike will also share some of their thoughts. So I thought let's start by contextualizing the program. We are based at the University of Stellenbosch Business School, which is in the northern suburbs of Cape Town in the Tiger Waterfront Business District, and we're part of Stellenbosch University. And interestingly, Stellenbosch, together with UCT, is 100 years old next year. So we have our centenary celebrations next year. And I guess when you graduate at Stellenbosch University, you can know that you graduate with a premium qualification. You're backed by, quite literally, 100 years of experience and excellence. And this program, just to give you a bit of a history lesson as well, was started in 2005. So it's also more than a decade old, and we've got this vast experience and institutional knowledge on which we can build. So the Stellenbosch brand out there in the industry, I think, carries a lot of weight. So that's something to consider when you look at different options for your studies. Stellenbosch is a residential university, which means we have contact face-to-face sessions. We're not an online institution in the sense that all lectures are presented online. There are some courses that offer blended learning, like our MBA, nor are we a distance learning university. So class attendance is compulsory. We do understand, though, that nearly all of our students in the postgrad qualification are working individuals. So it might happen that you have a work commitment and you can't attend the lecture, and that's fine. You just let us know in advance. And we do record our lectures. You can always then download the lecture from our online platform so that you don't miss a lecture. But we'll talk more about that later on. Just to talk a bit more about the University of Stellenbosch, this specific program, the PGD in Financial Planning, is accredited by the Financial Planning Institution of Southern Africa, the FPI, which means that when our students graduate from Stellenbosch University, they are automatically allowed to write the FPI's entrance exam, which is called the Professional competency exam, the FPE that Mike wrote and passed with flying colours earlier this year. Congrats, Mike, and fingers crossed for next year. So we are accredited by the FBI. But then the business school also has a number of other accreditations, and that's specifically for the MBA degree. And you'll see that on the slides as well, the international accreditations that we hold, which is also referred to as the Triple Crown accreditation. So if you do consider furthering your studies at Stellenbosch, know that we rank among the handful universities who have all three international accreditations. We're part of a broad network of business schools, specifically on the African continent, but also across the rest of the world, especially in Europe. We've got quite a big footprint there. And you may probably be aware that Stellenbosch University is the leading research university in South Africa. So everything that we do here, all our teaching and learning and the social impact, the community engagement, all of that is underpinned by the research that we do. And we publish in journals, in the media, we present at conferences, we influence policymakers, and we really have a platform on the national agenda as well. So that being said, let's get down then a bit more into the detail practically. What can you expect at USB? And the first point I want to reiterate is that we have contact sessions, and as convenient as online lectures are, I don't think, Mike and Tamsin, you can say if you disagree with me, but I don't think anything can ever replace the value that you get from face-to-face contact sessions. Mike, what is your take on that?
No, definitely. I mean, mine actually was a choice between doing it either online or at Stellenbosch Business School with classes that happened twice a week, I think.
Yes.
If I can remember. The reason I basically chose this was because you get exposure to experienced lecturers, lecturers that also work and are part of the university. So you get a lot more knowledge that way, and you get advice because, I mean, the textbook does have a lot of information. So they do also point you towards the right direction, and also it keeps you aligned in terms of not falling behind. They keep you at a pace that's right in order to get everything done in a year or two. It depends which one you choose. That's some main reasons for me.
So Tamsin is class rep. So you speak on behalf of the student body. What would you say is the main value of being part of a student group and having that interaction?
Well, I must be honest, I did not choose Stellenbosch because of the lectures, the offer of lectures. I chose it because I was recommended to me by past colleagues, some of the top legal advisors at my previous employer, and it always stuck in the back of my mind that I would want to do my CFP through Stellenbosch.
Good.
But I must say that the lectures are just an added support because just in my personal circumstance, knowing that I've set that time aside to go to lectures, knowing that I'm actually keeping up to date with the work instead of procrastinating is very, very, it helps me a lot personally.
And it is, let's be honest, it is a serious time commitment. Indeed, Mike just said it's 2 lectures a week. It's after hours, so it starts at just after 6. And all the lecturers work, nearly all the students work. So you've got to get from work to here, and then you have a lecture of 3 hours long. There is a coffee break in between, but still, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of mental effort to concentrate for 3 hours twice a week, and then do revision over weekends. And especially if you do it in 1 year, there isn't a holiday in between the terms. You write the first module's exam, and 2 days later you start with the next module. So I want everyone who's listening to be aware of what you're letting yourself in for, that it's not a time filler, it's not a quick, easy option. It is challenging, but it is doable. And we strive to provide as much support as we can, not just through my office as program head, but also from the lecturers. We do have extra sessions just before a test, and we do have a feedback session where you get your test script back, and you get the memo, and you can learn from your mistakes. And then also we have each other in the class. So I find that students often form smaller study groups, especially if you work in the same firm. Then it's easier to share notes and perhaps just help each other through this process. And then after you graduate, we do have a careers services office, and we have an alumni office as well. So once you graduate, you automatically become an alumnus of Stellenbosch University. I don't know what the exact number is, but we have thousands and thousands of business school alumni, and you can tap into that market already and so build your own network. And then the careers service office is free of charge for our enrolled students if you need advice on building a CV or on your personality type, what type of environment should you be looking for, or just some guidance in general. We do offer that service as well. Mike mentioned the lecturers, the faculty that we have. There are now 10 lecturers on the program. I lecture the tax section. I'm a master tax practitioner, and we've got most of our lecturers are in industry, so they come from the firms. Many of them have decades and decades of experience in retirement planning, in investments planning, in the insurance industry, in tax as well. So we are blessed with some of the best, I can say this unequivocally, we're some of the best lecturers in the country. And we also attract some of the best students in the country to Stellenbosch University. There are a number of students who fly down from Durban and from Joburg for the lectures. They can't obviously attend every lecture, but then they download the lecture and they stay up to date, and they come and write each test, and they do very well. So it can be done, even though it is after hours. So we've got some wonderful faculty on our program that have this rich practical background underpinned by solid academic qualifications. As regards the business section of the business school, and when I say we, I mean the whole business school, we regularly organize special leaders events and talks that any of our students or stakeholders are welcome to attend. So you also have access to that, industry leaders, politicians, great minds that come together and debate topical issues. And I've already mentioned the careers and alumni services. Just to talk a bit about the other programs, so you start off by doing a postgraduate diploma at the business school, and then you can take that further. So most of our students would then go on to write the FBI's exam and qualify as certified financial planners, but your career doesn't have to stop there. So you can always take it further by doing a master's, and the most popular one is of course the MBA. So our postgraduate diploma would give you admission into the MBA. Of course, there are other requirements as well. So you don't have to do an honours. The PGD is at the same NQF level 8 as an honours, just without the research component. There are other master's modules as well, but they don't link up with the financial planning modules. So I'm not going to talk about those, future studies and coaching, etc. But just know that you can do an MBA, and if you really want to do a PhD after that as well. Then I have to share, I mean, Stellenbosch University has got this proven track record, but this program specifically is also doing very well in the FBI's exams. We have excellent pass rates both internally, but also in the FBI's exams. We are waiting the 2017 results, but I can say in last year's exam, in the 2016 exam, one of our graduates was the top student, and you'll see her picture there, Monique Milan. So she was first in her class in the previous year. She graduated top in the country as well. So we are really proud of the achievements of our graduates, and we will continue to build on that foundation as well. And you'll see in our brochures and our website, I believe our recipe for success, as I've mentioned before, consists of two things. We attract the best students, and we've got really excellent lecturers, and that combination I think is a winning combination, and I like to brag about my students, so that's why you guys are sitting here as well. I've mentioned the career path, so I get many questions from prospective students. What do you need to get entrance into the program? First of all, you need a relevant bachelor's degree. Now, relevant means relevant to this program. So, a BCom, an LLB. We do consider other bachelor's degrees as well, but that's on a case-to-case basis. So we do have students who come from a BA background, for example, BA in political science, but then you would need to prove that you have some work experience in financial planning. So if you are in doubt, rather contact us and then we can discuss your possible admission. What happens if you don't have a bachelor's degree? Well, then the RPL, the Recognized Prior Learning Route of the university, kicks in. And each program can accept a limited number of RPL students each year. Now, for financial planning specifically, and this differs a bit from the other programs, you need an NQF 6 level. So remember, the PGD is NQF 8. You need an NQF 6 qualification, and specifically the advanced diploma in financial planning. There are a number of institutions that offer this diploma, plus some work experience. Now, we don't want to be too prescriptive and say 5 years or 10 years. That is a general guideline, but you must have some work experience. Now, what happens if you are currently busy with your bachelor's degree? So typically, you would be a final year student. Our admissions close on 31 October, but you won't have your results by the end of October because you must still write your final exam and results only come out by November. So you can automatically apply for the normal bachelor's route, not RPL, because you are in the process of getting your bachelor's and you must provide us with your interim results. So what did your June exam results look like? What was your first year, second year results? And we take that into account. And if your results are good, you will then get provisional entrance. So you would get a letter from our registrar's office that says you have been granted provisional entrance to the PGD pending the final outcome of your final exams. And if you pass your final exams, you graduate, you will then be allowed to continue with the PGD. So just to confirm again, there are two ways of getting into the program. The one is the normal route, the bachelor's degree route. The other is the RPL route, where you do need some work experience. So the idea of the PGD is to equip you with the necessary knowledge so that you can write the FPI's entrance exam. Your employer will equip you with the necessary practical skills, and those two combined will then eventually result in you obtaining the Certified Financial Planner, CFP, designation. So we provide the academic leg of this qualification, your employer the practical skills side, and together you would then apply directly to the Financial Planning Institute to get your professional designation. After that, if you want to further your studies, as I've mentioned before, you can consider doing an MBA here at Stellenbosch University. Now let's talk a bit more about the modules which we do in the year. There are 4 modules. They are all compulsory, and each module carries 30 credits. Now you must pass module 1, 2 and 3 in order to get entrance to the all-important module 4, case studies. I'll talk a bit about each module and then I'll hand over to Mike and Tamsin just to share their experiences with the modules, because it depends on your background. There will be some modules that you would be more comfortable with. There are also students who transfer in from other universities. That can be done. The rule is that you have to complete at least 2 modules here at Stellenbosch in order to graduate with the Stellenbosch qualification, and one of those modules has to be the case studies module. Okay, so you can transfer in, but you need to do 2 modules here, one of which is the case study module. So you start off your program with module 1, which is called the Financial Planning Environment module, and I present in that module. So we would do the tax calculation of an individual, quite basic. We look at the capital gains tax modules. Mike, I don't know if you can remember that module 1. It's a bit long ago, but we start off with the tax section. We do financial calculations and also the regulatory environment in which a financial planner has to operate. And for each module, you write 1 test, and that test determines whether you get entrance to the exam. So at this stage, and for 2018, we don't have any assignments. We have 1 test that you have to write. and you need at least 40% to get entrance to the exam. And most of our students get entrance to the exam, nearly all of them. And then you've got about 2 weeks to study for the exam. You come and write the exam, and you can start with the next module already. Doesn't matter what the outcome is of the first module. So modules 1, 2, and 3, you may continue. It's just that you need to pass all 3 before you can start with module 4. So the order that one normally does this in, especially if you do it in 1 year, is module 1 and then module 3. So don't be too worried about the module numbers. But if you are interested in the sequence of events, the next module would be the corporate financial planning module. So that's where we look at, and I'm just looking here at my notes, that's where we look at the taxation of different business entities. Do you have a small business corporation? Is it a plain closed corporation? Is it a sole proprietor? Is it a micro business? Do we use turnover tax, etc.? We then look at employee benefits, especially retirement funds, and that can get quite tricky to be aware of the rules of the pension funds and the regulations and all of that. And then we end off with the healthcare section, and that for me was quite an interesting section this year. Tamsin, this year's group is the first group for whom we did a wellness session. So the lecturer on that section is a medical doctor, and he arranged for a company to come in after one lecture, and all the students, including myself, underwent some health tests. I'm not going to share lots of those tests, they are confidential, but that was a nice, I think a nice practical element to the lectures. And they discussed the aggregate results of the class and linked that back to the theory. So I think that was a nice initiative that we introduced this year. So that's in the first semester, the first 6 months of the year. And then module 742, which is the personal financial planning module, and that comprises estate planning. Now in the first module you would have done some basic calculations of estate planning, some basic calculations of trusts. But now in this module, they really go into depth regarding estate planning. We also cover investments, and I think this is what trips up most of our students, because investments is quite a specialized area. You guys who operate in practice, Mike, I don't know what your take, if you can remember back to that module, investments planning. Even if you do have a BCom background, which would give you a bit of an edge, in comparison with those who come from a law background, it is still a bit tricky. So what was your take on that personal financial planning module?
Well, it was quite handy because I deal with individuals on a daily basis as opposed to corporate clients. So I mean, it's very practical in terms of doing a retirement plan for clients when they want to know how the calculations are done. You know how to show them, especially, I won't get too technical, but escalations of debit orders and things like that. And also estate duty, trying to advise them on how much life cover they need after doing an estate duty calculation. You can, you know how things are calculated, so you don't just sit there and say that's the figure that was generated.
So you can actually interpret the results.
Yes, yeah. The investment side of it, I guess it's more knowing the terminology. You have to know the ratios, it's all practice, I guess. Yeah, a lot of practice, and listen to what the lecturer says, and especially concentrate on the most important parts that they concentrate on. And I mean, it went better than I thought, and I thought it didn't go well.
Yeah. So we have that experience every year. Students who sat for the test and then tell me that they'll have to deregister. It didn't go well, but then the results come out and nearly all the students get exam entrance and go on to pass the module. As you say, it's a question of practice. One does feel uncomfortable the first time you have to encounter a new topic. I'm comfortable with tax, I might not be as comfortable with investments. If you come from an investments background, you might not be comfortable with retirement planning or the regulations of pension funds. So every student will have his or her own challenge. You don't have to have a financial background in order to successfully complete this program. You might need to study a bit more on certain sections, but then that would be the case for every student. So this module, students perceive this as the most difficult module. It might also be that at this time of the year the weather is bad and you're just tired, especially if you do it in one year. So it's just that things start to feel a bit too much. But know that everyone goes through that, and we are here to support you. As Mike said, let the lecturer guide you, because the textbook contains a lot of information, a lot of terminology, which is useful, but you want to pass your qualification first time round. So don't let that throw you. We will guide you through that process. And the idea is not to make specialists of the students. That's what you do after you qualify as a certified financial planner, and then you choose what you want to specialize in. So my idea or my goal when I lecture the tax section is not for the student to become a tax practitioner, not yet at this stage. Or when the lecturer of investments planning lectures, his intention is not for you to become a certified financial analyst, a CFA. It's to give you a broader understanding so that you don't just study by rote learning, that you actually understand when you talk to a client, this is what the results mean. So we do challenge you, especially at Stellenbosch, we really stretch you to the limit, but it will pay off in the end. So that's the personal financial planning module. And then the last one, everything culminates into this module for case study. So we don't just leave you there hanging to dry and you have to try and find old papers and try and get your exam technique. The lecturers in module 4 bring together all the theory that you've done throughout the year. And we do go through past papers, and whatever papers the FBI publish on their website, we will also go through that, so to help you with the exam technique. So whatever the FBI does in their exam, we do the same here. If their exam is 4 hours, our exam is 4 hours. So their exam consists of 2 sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. I think it's 3 hours each. Our case study exam mirrors that. So it's to help you prepare, because you have to get used to sitting for so long and concentrating for so long. So that's just an overview of the modules. You can find more information in the brochure. But what happens after you've graduated? Mike, since you've gone that route now, what happens after graduation and before you write the FBI exam?
Okay. Firstly, you celebrate.
You celebrate, okay. And you thank your lecturers and the program head especially.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just nice just to have a bit of a break.
Yeah.
Just clear your mind, but have a set date where you can start studying again.
So when is the FBI's exam?
It's in February. I think mid-Feb.
Okay, so you've got 2 months from
2.5
graduation, to study for that. How do you approach that though?
Well, yeah, firstly you set a date that you want to start studying and you keep to that date. And have a schedule of what modules you want to start and when you need to end and start the next one. Yeah, basically stick to that. Also a few hours a day, or if you prefer just weekends, and just do that. Yeah, try to stick to your schedule. Leave probably a week to do past papers and interact with colleagues or other students that are also writing. Just if you have any questions, at least you can get them all sorted. Yeah, make notes, use sticky notes, study them even though it's open book. You still need to know where things are, and you might think that you won't know where to find things, but as you study, it's becomes so easy. You'll actually picture the page in your mind. You'll be able to scratch it quite quickly. Yeah, so
okay.
That's right.
And an initiative that we started last year for the 2016 graduates is to offer an extra workshop, extra prep for the FBI exam. So the FBI has their own workshops that they conduct all across the country, and you have to attend those. But then we also offer a special workshop just for our Stellenbosch graduates. So it's a Saturday workshop. And we have on our platform, we have a separate module, and our graduates are automatically registered for that. So we can communicate with our students and they can communicate with one another, and we go through past papers. And we get one of our top lecturers to present that, and he's got vast amount of experience with setting exams for the FBI as well, and being a moderator for the FBI exam. So we bring in that experience, and we really hammer on exam technique and talk you through that process. So we won't just leave you after graduation. We do take you right up until the exam process at the FBI, and then you become an alumnus, and we stay connected with you in that way as well. Thank you, Mike. And now I think we get to what for me is the most important part of the day, and that would be the frequently asked questions. Now I notice here one of our guests asked, what are the fees for next year? Now the best advice I can give you is to go to our website. You'll get the details at the end, because that is subject to change. So we have proposed fees for next year, and that's the total for the program as a whole. So you just divide that by 4 to get to each module's cost, and that amount is subject to final approval by the Student Fees Committee. But we felt that it's best to give students a heads up so that you know what to budget for. So that's for the new intake for 2018. Currently enrolled students who do it over 2 years won't pay that fee. They've got their own quoted fee. So please go to the website. You'll find all the information there. The fees won't increase beyond what was quoted on the website. It might end up being less, but it definitely won't end up being more. So please visit the website for detailed information. And thank you for that question. Right, so I've compiled a list of frequently asked questions that our marketing division receives, and if I get a call from a prospective student, and I'll ask Mike and Tamsin to chip in here as well. The most important question being, should I do the program in 1 year or over 2 years? And it depends on your circumstances. So we know that our students have work commitments. Many students have family commitments as well. So you need to find the balance that will work best for you. Can you negotiate leave with your employer? Because you need to set aside enough time to prepare for an exam. The lectures are after hours, so it shouldn't clash with your work, but you do have to spend weekends to catch up on that. So Mike, perhaps I can start with you. You did the program in? In 1 year. Now, when you talk to colleagues or other classmates, what would you suggest?
I normally advise to do it in 1 year. That's how I was advised to. It's basically because a lot of the information between the courses are interrelated. So you might pick up something in the second module that you touched on in the first, and it's much more fresh, and you can at least makes it easier to learn new things in the second module and to add on to the first. Like you said, the environment, the first module, you touch on estate planning and trusts, then you expand on it in the third module.
Yes. So each module builds on the previous one.
Yes, and it's just more fresh in your head. Also, tax laws change quite a lot in terms of calculations for estate planning, and there's a long list that I could go on about. So you kind of want to just get it done in 1 year before they change.
Yeah.
And then at least you can still learn them while you're working in the next year, because you'll need to, but just for the tests and exams, it reduces stress, not having to learn new things halfway throughout. I think that's my reasons for why.
So on that point, students who choose to do it over 2 years, we can, and we do that on an individual basis if we get a request from a student, is to enroll you for a module just so that you have access to the lecturing notes. If you do it over 2 years and the tax law changes, so that you would need to stay up to date in your own time, but you can get access to the notes of that year's tax module. And then we also have a recording at the end of the year where we say these are the changes that have been proposed. We know that the budget speech triggers the whole tax law amendment process. The bills come out in June, the president takes forever to sign them, and then they have to be enacted and promulgated and what have you. So throughout the year, we give you a heads up and say, look, this is what's probably going to happen, but it's not law yet. And then at the end of the year, we look back and say, okay, this has been passed, this is what's going to come next year. So you can already use your theoretical knowledge to apply in your practice, in your work. So I agree with Mike. I think also it's best to do the program in 1 year. It is hectic, but then you are up to date with all the information, but you can do it over 2 years, and we do accommodate students like that. Tamsin, given that you are now in the 1 year process, how has that worked out for you? I know that you also have family commitments.
Yes. It has been a challenge. I am still glad that I chose to do it in 1 year. It was recommended to me to do it in 1 year by colleagues that have done it before at Stellenbosch. And I think it's just, like Mike said, carrying on with your train of thought while you're studying, remembering, being able to remember that this aspect relates to that. I think also law changes, keeping up to date, I would recommend to do it over 1 year, but of course taking into consideration your family circumstances or your personal circumstances or work circumstances. With me, I have a toddler, 3 years old, so it is a challenge.
Not ideal.
Not ideal, but I'm relieved that I'm more than halfway through, and now I'm just prepping myself, getting the most I can out of the program to prepare me for the board exam. I think I'm thinking about this program as just a big preparation for the board exam.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. Even if you decide not to become a certified financial planner and write the board exam, there are a couple of students who do this sort of as a value add for where they are in their business, whether it's their own business or for the employer, just to broaden their own knowledge. But the main function, I think, of this qualification is to prepare you for the FPI exam. So everything we do, we work backwards from the FPI exam, and we plan accordingly, and we follow the FPI syllabus and their learning outcomes, and we engage with practitioners. And okay, so this is what the book says. Practically, how do you do that? So I think we are all agreed that it's best to do it in 1 year, but you are welcome to do it over 2 years. And also you can change your mind up until March. So the program starts in January, quite early, I think in the second week of January, and you have until March to change your mind. So you can enroll for all 4 modules, see how the pace affects you, because you have to get used to a new rhythm. And if you have family commitments, they also have to get used to this new rhythm. You come home late, you come home after 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock at night, and you have to study over weekends. So if you think the pace isn't working for you, then you can unenroll from the modules without paying any penalties or fines, and then do the program over 2 years. Conversely, if you registered to do it over 2 years, you can decide to rather do it in 1 year by March, and then you just have to enroll for all 4 modules. So we have a registrar's office here on the Bellville campus. There's one on the main campus. We have a satellite office here. We have a dedicated module coordinator who is very sharp with admin, and we will guide you through that process as well. Tamsin, just linking on to that question, I've worked in family commitments. How do I balance everything? And of course, that's a personal question because every student's circumstances differ. But practically, guys, how did you cope last year? I would cope with chocolates, but how did you cope? Well, you say you have a toddler, I suppose a support structure of some sort would be necessary.
Support structure at home, and knowing that on Tuesdays and Thursdays I have lectures, so making sure that she is looked after while I'm going to lectures, and then also just dealing with the reality of having a toddler in the home when you're trying to study. So I think it's all about also your personal exam technique, how you study.
And how do you study?
Alright, so I attend my lectures. I am very grateful for the video uploads.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
I go through the video uploads maybe once or twice, just to go to aspects that I remember were important. I find that even the lecturer's voice, the soothing voice of one of the lecturers, calms me down.
Puts you to sleep or calms you down?
Calms me down. So this is not so bad. So yes, I use that. I make notes, and then I also try and establish what the examiner's technique is like by going through a past paper that we do get access to, and in that way I study in an effective way. I do also read a lot. I don't necessarily parrot study, fashion study, which wouldn't there be no point in that because it is open book.
Yeah.
But
so we test insight, not memory recall.
And also to understand the work instead of applying rules. just applying rules without understanding where in which context it's meant for and how it's supposed to be used. So yeah, understanding something, investment planning has been a big challenge for me because I am more, my preference is tax and my strength is tax planning and estate planning. So investment planning was refreshing also because it was a review of basic economics from my undergrad. It was a reminder that there's a lot of, in discussions, in practice, that when you're having discussions with your clients, you need to keep relevant, you need to know what's happening in the economy, how international economies affect South Africa and us, and also to be able to have that conversation with clients. I think it's very relevant, and I think that in industry, in my experience, there was a lot of emphasis on product training, whereas I think there is a definite need for just economics training on investment planning.
So did this give you a bit of a broader picture?
It definitely did.
Which is a challenge at first.
It is.
But it does reap rewards later
and
on.
I noticed in the class there were a lot of students who were asking really high-level questions, and I noticed that there's a diverse group of people in the class. Some people had seemed to have quite good skills in investments or have a lot of knowledge in investments, whereas I, for instance, have more of a tax background. So yeah, and also being able to talk to the other in class about what's happening in the industry is also.
And I think that interaction is very valuable.
Very.
So we have a very diverse student body, not just in terms of age, but also in terms of your academic background and your practical background. So we have students who've been in industry for 20, 30 odd years. We have students who are fresh graduates, many who have a BCom degree, some with an accounting degree, many with a laws background, and it works. It really works well because there's always something that you can learn from another student. So yes, you might have a challenge in this area, another student would have a challenge in that area. It does make it difficult for a lecturer to pitch the lecture at the right level, because do I pitch for a beginner in tax or for an advanced student in tax? So there are these practical issues that we deal with every year, but I think it just enriches the whole learning experience. I see we do have some more questions here. You are welcome to type your questions. Let's just take a moment to answer those. The first one is, do most students choose to do it over 1 year? The answer is yes. Most students do it over 1 year, and by far most of them are working individuals. So you get to immediately apply your theoretical knowledge, and you can bounce ideas with your colleagues, especially those who've done the program here at Stellenbosch. They understand where you're coming from and they can offer you helpful advice. So most students do it over 1 year. The other question is, are the term and exam dates for 2018 available? Yes, the dates are available on our website and in the brochure. When the term starts early in Jan and we end in December, but the actual dates for the lectures, the tests and exams, you only get once you've enrolled for the program. So only after you've applied and you were admitted into the program do we give you the course outline for the whole year. So we give that at the beginning of January when there's an orientation session. We've got a whole afternoon. All the students come in, lecturers come in, you get your picture taken for your student card. We take you through the whole IT registration process. There's a networking function. The FBI also flies down from Joburg and come and talk to our students. What was the question again? Oh yes, and then we give you the dates for the whole year. So you can plan ahead of time. When you need to negotiate leave with your employer, if you need to fly in from somewhere else, you can book your flights already. We do not change the test and exam dates. We're not allowed to do that. To my knowledge, we haven't changed any lecture date this year as well, because we know that will be a huge inconvenience for students. And we've never cancelled a lecture this year either. So you will get those dates at the beginning of the year. All right, let's get to the next question on my list. What if I miss a lecture? Now, I did say that we are a residential-based university, which means lectures are compulsory. You have to attend lectures. But we do understand that in reality it's not always possible to do that. So in every lecture there's a class attendance register that gets sent around and you have to sign. We use that register when a student is a borderline case, when you're close to 40% to get exam entrance, or when you are at 49% and you need 50% to pass. Then I would request all the registers for the whole term, for the whole year, and I would ask my module coordinator to confirm how many lectures you've attended. If you can't attend a lecture, please email us and we will then mark you as absent with apology. But we do keep record of that. It's important that we stay engaged with our students and that you realize that once you've signed up for this, you've committed to be here and stay up to date with the work. What if you miss a lecture? You let us know in advance or immediately thereafter. But all the lectures are recorded from this year on and uploaded within 2 days to our online platform. All the class notes are uploaded prior to the lecture, so the PowerPoint slide the lecturer uses. There might be additional reading material or articles in the media, links to videos on YouTube that we want you to watch. So we upload that and you can access that and watch it again and again if you've missed something. It's difficult to concentrate for 3 hours. I wouldn't be able to do that. So the recordings are really handy if you just need to revise something. Some lecturers have additional recordings if they couldn't get through all the work or they just want to give you a bit of extra to help you through the exam. Tamsin mentioned just now that we do provide past year's exams and tests to the students. So before you write a specific module's test, we give you the previous year's test with a solution, and we give you the previous year's exam together with a solution so that you can gauge how each lecturer asks their work. Certain topics can only be asked in a certain way, and so that you can practice your exam technique and mark your own work as well. So it's not a train smash if you miss a lecture, as long as you don't miss all of your lectures. How do I prepare for a test or exam? I think Tamsin has addressed that to a large extent. I think the golden rule is not to fall behind. Of course, if one gets sick and you miss out on a week or two's lectures, it'll be very difficult to catch up, but you can do that. For the exams, you can choose between the first or the second exam. So you can defer your exam opportunity. I think it takes place 3 weeks after the first exam, but there's no third opportunity. So there is a risk. If you write the first exam and you don't make it, you might qualify for the second exam. You might know that as a herexamen or a reval opportunity. But you can choose to defer and write the second exam. And if you pass that, great. If you don't pass that, you would have to repeat the module. Mike, do you have any other tips for students, seeing that you've also written the board exam? How do I actually prepare in the week leading up to the exam?
I think Tamsin covered a lot of the points. But yeah, just keep up to date with everything. Try not to fall behind. If you do, then just work harder and try to catch up. And another thing she said that was very important: understand what you are doing and what you're learning. Don't try and
just memorize.
Just understand it, because that's the best way. And then, I mean, in a test or exam, it's much easier to interpret or know where to find the resources to answer the questions.
So we've talked about the open book. The first module is closed book. So that's where we test the regulatory environment, lots of rules that you have to recall. The tax schedules are provided. So we give you the tax table for the year. I give you a framework for the tax calculations. You don't have to memorize unnecessary stuff. But all the other modules are open book, the FBI to the exam venue. You can bring your class notes with to the exam venue. You can bring any printed resource to the exam venue. You're just not allowed to bring your cell phone or laptop or iPad. But the trick with open book is that you know the lecturers won't ask a simple memory recall because it's open book. So we then test for insight and we ask advice type of questions similar to what the FBI would ask. So the textbook is really there as a last resort, just to quickly check a certain amount or calculation, but you must already understand the work and not rely on the textbook. to get you through the exam, because there isn't enough time to page through the whole thing and try to figure out what's going on in that particular question. And the other thing is managing your time, not just the time leading up to the test, but while you are actually writing the test. So each test consists of different sections. Section A would be the tax section, section B, investments or whatever. And the marks allocation for each section is included in the paper. And you have 4 hours in which to write a 100-mark paper. We give you an extra 15 minutes at the beginning to just quickly page through it and plan how you're going to answer that. You can start with any section. So if you are most comfortable with tax, you start with tax to get your maximum marks. If you come from an investments background, you start with the investment section and you answer each one separately. But you have to stick to the allocated time. So if you've worked out that you only have 1 hour for tax, you can't spend 2 hours on tax because you're wasting too much time. It's going to cost you in the end. So you have to learn that technique of sticking to the allocated time. It's the same with the FBI's exam. Tamsin, you've recently written a test. How important is that time management technique, and how do you practice that?
Oh, it's very important. I think I've got it.
Good.
I know how what my strengths are, my weaknesses, and so yeah, starting off with the things that you're very comfortable with, and making sure you leave enough time for those more challenging sections.
And that's where the fast papers come in handy,
help.
Because you have also the marks allocation, and you have to practice those papers, time yourself, so that you get used to that pressure.
Yeah.
And not just go, oh yes, that's the answer, oh yes, that's the answer. Actually write out the answer, because all our assessments are in written format. You don't type your answers, you have to write it out. And if you're not used to writing, I'm not used to writing anymore. I type everything. It takes getting used to a bit. And on that point, I also want to mention that all our lectures and all our notes and the textbook are in English. But if you are an Afrikaans student, you are welcome to pose your questions in Afrikaans during the lecture, and you can also answer the assessments in Afrikaans, and they will be marked. Our lecturers are all bilingual, so Afrikaans students, please don't feel that you're left out of the postgraduate diploma. You can answer in Afrikaans as well. I see there's another question here. What is the closing date for applications? Again, please go to the website for up-to-date information. But the closing date is 31 October. That's for those students who come in through the bachelor's degree route, as well as for RPL applications. All applications close on 31 October. And then we review all the applications in one batch. So some programs accept students on a rolling basis throughout the year. We don't. We get to choose the best of the best students. There's only space for approximately 100 students. Because some students do it over 2 years, there are a handful of repeat students as well. The maximum capacity of our venue is 150, so we work back from that. We don't want to inflate the class too much, because then you lose that more personal interaction. So a safe estimate is 100 students to apply. If you are in doubt, apply. You don't know what your chances are until you've applied, and we do all the applications, we review all of them the first week in November. We do the RPL interviews also the first week in November. So by mid-November, you will know the outcome of your application, whether you've been accepted into the program, whether it's provisional and we're waiting for your final results, or if you perhaps did not make it this year and you need to do further courses before we can admit you into the program. Right, so that answers the question. I'll get to the next one then. Another question that pops up as well, because we have this diverse group, is I come from a law background and I'm a bit apprehensive about the number crunching aspect. Will I be able to cope? So Tamsin, maybe you can latch onto my answer. The answer is yes, you will be able to cope, but you need to step up and you'll have to do some extra prep for certain topics. So there is a financial calculator that all the students use, and we'll give you that information. There are student guides that tell you how to use the calculator. We do that in the lectures as well. So we talk about the theory about financial calculations, but then we actually also write, press this button, then press this button. So we do bring it down to that level as well. And law students would be very comfortable with the tax and the retirement planning section. So, and the number crunching students might not be, because you have to discuss case law as well. So Tamsin, maybe for the number crunching aspect, what was your experience with that?
Okay, so firstly, I hadn't used a financial calculator in many years. Well, I don't even recall really using one in university.
Is that HP,
HP
10B, whatever, it's the HP Hewlett Packard calculator?
I started my undergrad in 2002, so I really don't recall using a financial calculator, perhaps the final year. But it was a challenge learning how to use one at the beginning of this year. But as you said, the lecturers were very, they coached us on what are the most effective ways of using it. We went through many examples, many examples. And I think that's the key aspect, is to go through many examples.
And if the textbook also has many examples, we do give tutorials during the lecture, we give you past papers, so you might end up not having enough time going through all the examples rather than not having enough examples.
So you definitely have a lot to cover, and you don't, by the end of it, you will be an expert in financial calculation.
You will do number crunching along with the best of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to answer Stian's question, in your view, how many hours of studying are required per week, excluding the lectures? Okay, so the lectures take up 6 hours every week, and then you have to start with your revisions. The ideal is to pre-read the relevant chapter before going into the lecture. But I mean, we know it's not always possible. So the idea is to go through the chapter, then go through the lecture, then do revision, work through the lecturer's notes, read again, do examples. Practically, how many hours, Mike, did you realistically, if you even it out over a week and not cram the day before the test?
I think it just depends on person to person, but probably 5 hours in addition to the lectures.
That sounds about 5-6 hours, Tamsin?
Per module, well, I think I usually start studying for the test 3 weeks before the test. Once I prepare for the test as if I'm preparing for the exam.
Yeah. These are the same content.
Yes. So an hour or two a day, if I had to average it out. Of course, not every day, because I have work commitments and personal commitments. So I try to keep it as consistent as I can, but there are times where I, have to really concentrate.
So let's say maybe, I think safely 6 hours a week to do revision. But before a test or exam, obviously you would put in a lot more hours. I would, if you can, take off 2 days, at least 2 days of leave, and then just study. Set aside that time. Your family, your friends must realize that your priority now is to study. So you need that space and that time to study. On average, try to keep up with the work every week, and then before test or exam, you really put in the extra hours. So I would say 5 to 6 hours a week. All right, I don't have a bachelor's degree. May I apply? We've covered that. Yes, you may apply. You would then, if you're a bachelor's in your final year, you apply through the normal route. If you don't have a bachelor's and you're not currently busy with those studies, you would come in through the RPL route. Both applications close on 31 October, and we will review both applications. RPL, you will then be invited for an interview if you meet the minimum requirements. In other words, work experience and that advanced diploma we referred to earlier. Do I need work experience to apply? If you have a bachelor's degree, technically no, you don't need work experience. Practically, I think it does help. You won't not get admission if you have a bachelor's degree and you don't have work experience. But practically, Mike, do you think work experience would be helpful? I'm thinking now specifically of our final year BCom students and LLB students who want to enroll now, and you certainly can do that. What about those who've been in industry for a long while and might not be as comfortable applying? What would you say?
I think it could work both ways. Maybe sometimes too much work experience is bad, because you get used to bad
a certain
habits.
way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is always beneficial to have some work experience. I'd say, even if it's just coming straight out of a bachelor's degree, to start the next year working and the postgrad is also very beneficial. I mean, I've got a few colleagues that are actually doing that this year,
Okay.
and they're doing really well at it. It's manageable, definitely.
So the combination of doing the PGD and starting your career as well.
Yeah.
And I know that many corporates have in-house training as well that they provide. Whatever division you are in, there probably would be training as well. And Tamsin, what would you say about work experience?
I would recommend work experience. I think it would really help to have that practical experience every day. I think it's very important for all financial advisors to have this qualification if it was possible. I really think that it really ups your credibility and your professionalism. Now that I'm studying this program, I'm learning even so much more than what I had. It opened my world up a whole lot more. I wanted
more confident in the advice that you give to your
yes.
clients.
And in the environment that I work in now, I have to have that confidence to be able to consult with the financial planners. I wanted to do this program a few years ago, and I was in my second year of being a financial advisor. Because I heard about the CFP designation, and I got interested in wanting to learn more. There is a lot of support from employers when you're a financial advisor, depending on obviously where you are. But as I said, that first year is it's crucial that you educate yourself, and if you could,
that first year that you enter into the job
industry,
okay.
yes, that you educate yourself and that you so that you can have that competitive advantage. Because the market, I mean, there are lots of financial advisors in the country. Being able to give that expert advice and a high level advice, I think, is important. And especially since, in my knowledge, there's quite a high turnover of financial advisors in the industry who don't carry on with it. I think if they were equipped with this program from the start, if you can, and you are in your first year of financial advice, I would definitely recommend enrolling in this program. It will definitely.
That's good to know. So the program is certainly relevant from a practical point of view. So the fact that we are accredited by the FPI means that we meet their strict education requirements. But it's nice to know that it's of great practical value as well. It's not just a diploma that you do, it's nice to have. You can actually use it almost from day one and enrich your own knowledge, but also the advice that you give to clients and to family members.
Even from business opportunities as a financial advisor.
Yes.
There are a lot of aspects, if you're accredited for different products that you might not be aware of in other aspects of financial planning, retirement planning, investment planning, tax planning, business assurance.
The thing is, you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
And hopefully doing a program like this would fill the gaps. And
especially what Mike mentioned about having bad habits. Bad habits can accumulate and get worse over time. So yes, I think keep yourself relevant.
One example of that is a few years ago I had a student who's been in industry for 30 years. And he's done tax returns for clients, but he doesn't actually understand the underlying law. Why did SARS then pop out that amount in the assessment? I don't know. And you don't want to ever be in that position where a client asks you something and I don't know, and you just try and wing it. If you don't know, admit it, and then you get expert advice. But you want to be the expert. Yes. You want to be in the position to give advice to your client. On the point of employers, check with your HR division. Many employers offer bursaries or some sort of financial arrangement for their students. I know some employers require that their students pay the class fees up front, and as you pass each module, they refund you that amount. other employers pay for your class fees. So please check with your employer, check with your HR, ask your colleagues. There might be some financial arrangement that you can enter into. And then also what we've started this year is on our e-platform, we've created a separate module where we post job adverts. So because we are highly regarded in the industry, there are so many employers who contact us who want to recruit from our students, currently enrolled students, alumni, and we then post the job adverts there, and in so doing we create, I think, more opportunities for our students. We also connect with the careers office and they tap into this alumni database. I think we've covered all the questions. There's one more question which I'll answer by clicking on the next slide. If you have further questions, your first point should be to visit our website, usb.ac.za/finplan. Alternatively, you can email us at finplan@usb.ac.za. So if you have any other questions, please contact us and we'll try and sort you out. Mike, any closing comments from you before we sign off?
Well, it's really recommended. The course is brilliant. It puts you in a position to better advise your clients and also build your client base and be recognized in the industry. I mean, with RGR and everything coming into effect, it's important to separate yourself in the industry and have this qualification and the CFP after that. So,
thank you. Tamsin?
Yes, I definitely recommend this program. The lecturers are awesome.
Thank you.
They are. They all have their unique, eccentricities. And so yes, and they also they portray that they're very passionate about the subject.
That's true.
Which I picked up, and which is really, it's nice to know. And
nothing worse than a boring lecture. You want someone who's passionate about their work.
And you can ask them questions, and they chat to them after lectures. So they're very encouraging. So if you want the support, it's a good support structure here in this program. And yes, if you want to be a professional, go ahead and get your qualification.
It's worth it.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. Thank you for everyone who's tuned into this webinar. We will post the link to this video. It will be on YouTube by next week, and we will post the link to this so you can spread the word. And if you have questions, do contact us. Sorry, there's one more question I noticed. One of your questions weren't answered, Stian. I'm so sorry, I missed that in my haste to cover everything. How many students allowed into the program? Approximately 100 every year. So roughly 100 students. If in doubt, apply. Thank you so much, and I hope to meet many of the guests who attended this webinar next year. Thank you very much. Goodbye.